Right, cool. Well, we'll get going now. I think there will be still a few more people to join, but I'm sure they can pick up. So firstly, big warm welcome to the second session of the QAstion Time Lunch and Learn series. Again, great to see such a good turnout to what promises to be an interesting talk on a really relevant topic to so many of us right now. So firstly, for those of you that haven't spoken with me before, my name's Christy. I'm a QA and test consultant for Expertise Recruitment, and I place great testers with my great clients across the Northwest. As a bit of background, I started the QAstion Time Lunch and Learn series to encourage knowledge sharing amongst testers in the community during this period of relative downtime. So the idea is that every week there'll be one awesome speaker who'll do a 30-minute talk followed by a Q&A, and as there is some Zoom fatigue going around, the idea is to keep the sessions quite short and sweet but highly informative. So if you have any questions throughout the talk, feel free to write them in the chat bar on the right hand side whilst they're still fresh in your mind, and me and Duncan will go through these at the end. Also feel free to speak up and ask any questions you might have throughout the talk. Similar to last week, I'd love to see this talk spark some further conversation and knowledge sharing, so don't be afraid to actually speak up at the end. Also, as I did mention last week, just to put the speakers at ease, it's often nice to have lots of smiley faces just to show that you're engaged and listening. So obviously bearing in mind that you are fully clothed and feel comfortable doing so, please feel free to leave your cameras on. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Duncan now, who I'm sure will make his own good introduction, and I hope you all really enjoy the session.
Try. Nice one, thanks Christy. Right, let me just share this screen so that's there. Right, I'll move you back over here so I can see you. Right, amazing. Hi everyone, thank you for spending a sunny lunchtime with me. Appreciate it. Hopefully I'm gonna make it worth your while. So yes, welcome to Self-Development on a Budget. So to begin with, I'm Dunks. I guess if you want to call me Duncan, that's fine, but one syllable is easier. I'm currently posing as a software delivery consultant, but I'm a tester at heart. So I started testing back in 2000, straight out of university. And this experience makes me look at software development through a quality lens. So I can help with process improvement by trying to improve quality and shorten those feedback loops and rework and all that stuff. And I joke that I've only been actively learning since 2007. So I went through school and I went through university doing just enough to get by. I joke about that I learned how to pass exams. So when I got out of education, I had enough of learning, and I just wanted to go and do my job, and I can get by learning on the job. But that can only take you so far. So yeah, there's the details if you want to find me. I'm happy to stay on the call afterwards. If anyone wants kind of a private chat, I'm happy to stay around afterwards. Okay, so that's enough about me. Okay, so there's this quote: "Can't afford to waste my time making money." So there's been this inherent relationship between time and money for years and years, and it's important to realize that when we're not making money, if we're taking time out to learn, then arguably we're not making money, right? Be that for the company or be that for ourselves. So how do we kind of minimize our cost of learning is kind of how I approach this. So for my context, so this is all about my learning and how I've developed my approach. So I'm an independent, right? So if I'm not in work, I don't get paid. That's outright, whether that be for a holiday, whether that be for sick, whether that be for training. So I need to make sure that my time out of work is really valuable. So the money that I'm not making, I need to make sure that what I'm doing is worth the trade-off. Holiday time with the family, learning a new skill that could help me improve in the future. But I found that learning could be costly. So obviously the world has changed immensely since when I was younger and I was trying to kind of develop my skills, and there's a lot wider opportunities now for learning, and I'm going to show you kind of some ideas how I keep the cost down. So I don't want a double whammy of not being in work and paying a fortune for that training, so you lose out twice. But as an independent, it's important for me to keep ahead of the curve, right? I need to know what the current technologies are. I need to know what people are interested in to make sure that I can remain relevant. Okay, so So appreciate that you need to spend money to make money, but how do I ensure I'm being frugal with not only my money, but also my time? So just a quick, cheesy secret. Some of this may be obvious to you. Paying attention to your own self-development makes you more valuable than those who don't. And this lesson was served to me when I was younger, and I thought that the employee was responsible for, sorry, the company was responsible for my self-development. I would get frustrated when I wasn't put forward for courses. I would kick and scream and say, "Yeah, I'm not getting enough training. Why aren't you giving me training?" And actually, it's not on your employer. It's on you. Your self-development is on you. You need to own it. And as soon as I kind of twigged that and realized that, life got better for me, right? I could control what I wanted to learn and when. I wasn't waiting for someone else to dictate what I should be learning. Okay, so agenda for today. There's only 3 items. I'm going to talk you through my Whirlpool model that I use. I'm going to emphasize the importance of interacting with your own learning. And then I'm going to talk about the perils of the echo chamber and some ideas for mitigating those. So firstly, the Whirlpool model. So we all know about the idea of a whirlpool, right? It kind of goes round and round, like the plug hole goes down deeper and deeper. So this concentric circles is meant to be a whirlpool. And the way I look at my education and how I learn, I start with the free stuff. And this is right on the outside. And I can go around this nice and slow, and I can do this at my own pace. When I get engaged in a certain topic that is relevant for me, that's relevant for the industry, I'm prepared then to spend a bit of cash just to kind of go a bit deeper into that topic. And then finally, once I'm all bought in, I think, yeah, this is relevant for me, the industry where I want to go, I'm happy to spend. I'm happy to drop a wedge of cash on something. So it's not that I don't spend, it's just that I choose what I spend when. And you could see this throughout. I'm going to go into some kind of examples in a moment, but like a lot of the big organizations that charge the big money for the certification have all their training material available online for free. Okay, so the TMMI talk we had last week, all that information, all the model, that's available on their website. They share it freely. So you can go and dive in there and start your learning there. Similarly with Scaled Agile framework or SAFe, that's all online for free. So you can go and start learning about a topic without paying any cash. Similarly, online education courses like edX, ISTQB, their stuff's free. You can get to the content, but if you want the piece of paper at the end of it, then you have to pay the price. Certificates aren't as important for me because I haven't needed them in the line of business that I've been in. I do have some certificates. For example, I do have a SAFe certificate, but I needed it for the organization I was in at the time. So I'm happy to go in, do the training, and then get what I can from it. And then you can compare what you get from the providers themselves with what people are writing about it, right? So well, let's go into some kind of examples first of all, right? So first of all, we have meetups, right? There's been an explosion of meetups since lockdown. All of them are free. I've been on countless webinars about, well, loads of them about how to work remotely, how to manage remotely, how to do things remotely, right? But they're free. You just need to give up your time. So you need to make sure you're spending your time in the right places. And then these are just some other examples of tools that I use to learn. Hopefully most are familiar to you. So you can take the information that you get from the big providers like TMMI or Scaled Agile Framework, and you can take that content and compare it with what people are writing about it, right? So for Scaled Agile Framework, for example, I will study people who are pro-SAFe, and I will study the work of people who are anti-SAFe to understand their difference of opinions. And we'll dig into that more in the kind of echo chambers. But that kind of juxtaposition of what the material says and wants you to think versus what people take away from it is really valuable and allows you to read between the lines and kind of helps you to make a more informed decision. And as you can see, as you kind of go into the Whirlpool, things get more expensive. And I have a rule of thumb that states that I'm willing to drop a lot of cash to be in the same room as a thought leader. So some of my most costly training have been, well, the most costly was selling the wife's car to go to problem solving leadership with Jerry Weinberg, Johanna Rothman, and Esther Darby. I sold the wife's car to go on that course. The reason why that was so expensive, it was in Albuquerque in the States, and I was there for a week. So in the grand scheme of cost of a course, it's not that expensive, but I had to sell my car to go to it. And other things as well. So Don Reinertsen, I'm a big fan of Don Reinertsen's work, and I'm happy to drop cash to go and spend 2 days with him. And I did, and I was fortunate enough to have some one-to-one tuition with him afterwards, because some of the ideas weren't landing. I'm not a mathematician, so yeah, to have that time, that one-on-one interaction with Don Reinertsen was invaluable for me and well worth the money that I spent. So yeah, so it's important to put money aside for training. Just don't blow it on the first course that promise you to make you AI compliant or some buzzword, right? Okay, so that's the Whirlpool model in a flash. Okay, so now I want to talk about kind of the importance of interacting with your learning, right? It's an active engagement. So Flannery Connor, I write because I don't know what I think until I read what I say. Have you ever been stuck on a problem only to solve it as soon as you start talking to someone about it? Yeah. Rubber ducking is a language it's called. It's like as soon as we start talking it out, it's like, oh yeah, right. I mean, as a tester, I quite often see like programmers with their head down, you know, face in their hands, and I just pop over to them and say, how's it going? What's up? Want a cup of tea? Just tell me about it. Like, oh, Duncan, you wouldn't understand. And I go, well, try me. And as soon as they start talking about it, the realization comes on them, right? So it's important that we do consume information whilst we're learning, but it's important to, for me, I find it's important to feed that back into the wider world, right? So we can take information in from like books, podcasts, research papers, YouTube, internet, right? And we can take all that in, but we don't get the real valuable learning, in my opinion, until we start generating output for others to consume. A, it keeps the world moving, but B, we also get feedback. We also get questions. People can challenge us on our ideas. This helps sharpen up our ideas. And we need to be prepared for that criticism, right? Not everyone's going to enjoy what you have to say. They're not going to agree with what you have to say, but that helps you form your opinion and shape it, and helps you put together the argument. And I say argument not in the kind of the bickering sense, but in when you're putting your case forward, because you get those counter arguments in, and that can help you kind of build the argument for your case. I'll move on from that one. Right. So if anyone kind of from in the NHS, the see one, do one, teach one idea, that as a learner, I watch someone do something, I then try and do it myself, and then I try and teach it to someone else, right? And it's not until you teach it to someone else you realize what you don't know. And someone far smarter than me, Richard Fineman, so he put together this technique. So you have 4 steps. The first step is you study your topic, and then you explain the topic to someone else who's unfamiliar with it. And then you restudy the topic to fill those knowledge gaps, like what didn't land, and then you simplify. So quite often, I'm a fan of models, I'm a fan of analogies. Sometimes the analogies I use don't work. They don't work in the sense that the person I'm talking to doesn't get what I'm talking about, right? It doesn't sink in for them. So I go back and I think of a different analogy, and I simplify the analogy until I get to a point where that I'm comfortable with the analogy, and I know that when I say it, people get it. And so I'm doing this at the moment with a lot of Reinertsen's work. Okay, so like product development flow. So I'm publishing kind of quite quick, light-hearted blog posts of ideas of how I'm teaching Reinertsen's work, and getting feedback on that, and just saying that doesn't work. So for cost, for example, cost of delay. The food in your fridge is an example of cost of delay. it goes out of date. You can't eat it. You've spent money for it. If it goes out of date, you can't eat it, right? The cost of delay is not eating it. So, and then just trying to see how that lands with people, and whether they agree or disagree. How can I make it better? For me, this typically starts with my close network of friends who I can call upon for honest, critical feedback. So I study a topic, and then I have a phone call with them, and it's an unfiltered conversation. So all the time we're having filtered conversations. We're like, right, before I say these words, what order should I put them in to make sure that makes sense? My friends don't get that. They just get a jumble of words as I try and formulate the ideas as they leave my mouth, because what we think in our heads and what we say out loud are two different things. So we need to speak. So like for people who practice for presentations, how important is it to actually talk and say the presentation out loud? Because when you hear yourself say it, you realize how stupid you sound. And then they give me feedback on my brain dump, and then I go back and I restudy and fill those knowledge gaps. Okay. So, chamber of echoes. We are all in several echo chambers. Okay, so just those of you like, this is a definition of echo chamber from Wikipedia. Okay, and you've all come across them, and you'll all be aware of the echo chambers you're in, or may not be, as the case may be. But just want to say that the sources we learn from have all been filtered, right? Either by ourselves, intentionally or unintentionally, but also by robots. And the prime example is the media we see, right? So Facebook, we see posts that are geared towards the way Facebook thinks that we want to see, right? Same with Twitter. The way the kind of the timeline is ordered. And then to add that as well, we follow certain people, or we follow hashtags. And so we get that kind of bubble as well, right? So let's just kind of go with this one. These different places that I learn from, I'm very aware of how the media that I'm seeing is being filtered. Okay. And this drives to confirmation bias. So if we follow the same people who have the same ideas as us, then we're always going to think that those ideas are correct. And we don't want to find information that challenges us, right? So that leads to confirmation bias. What I think, and this example of this is we go to Google when we're feeling poorly, and we put our symptoms in, and straight away we get to stomach cancer, right? I need to go to hospital. Okay, everything we see leads to confirms our theory. Similarly, groupthink. You've been in a team and you all think this is the best approach, and someone outside comes in and just kind of, it isn't on the same page as you, kind of like they get pushed out, right? This is how we do it. It's how it's always been here, right? So how can we, all right, so sorry, here's an example. On the left-hand side, you've got a Google search without, and the second side is incognito mode, right? And you can see the different results you get back, right? This is similarly as well to call out here. Big companies pay a lot for advertising and SEO. So if you're searching for a particular topic on Google, you'll often get these big companies first, right? And tool vendors, and they give you that skewed opinion on what they think of the subject is, right? So again, I use Twitter. Well, I'll come to that now. Come on, filter bubbles everywhere. So how do you escape the echo chambers, right? Interact with people you disagree with. This could be hard, right? Because we don't like confrontation. Search hashtags, right? So rather than searching Google, I search hashtags within Twitter. Then this gives me the topic without the bias on either side of it, right? So I can search for DevOps, and I will get people who are pro DevOps and people who are against DevOps, right? And then study those different counter arguments, understand where they're coming from. Because if you can understand where someone else is coming from, you can help shape your opinion and take them on the journey with you. And then the one from YouTube and TED as well, there's an autoplay capability, right? Don't ever have that on, especially with kids. And I'll share the slides, and there's a link to a TED talk about the perils of autoplay in YouTube, especially on children's videos. And I think they went from a cartoon to Mickey Mouse behind a wall doing something mischievous within 12 videos, right? And it certainly wasn't suitable for children to watch. So yeah, so turn off the autoload, because what that's doing is that's determining what you learn about next. Okay, remember, you own your own self-development. So switch off autoplay, you choose what video you watch next, because if you leave autoplay on, it will the robot will create that filter bubble around you, and it will start showing you videos of the same ilk, and you'll go down into an echo chamber and only see stuff that that they think you want to watch. So when you look at my YouTube videos, so I have lots of at the moment I'm watching lots of political videos, so I have lots of left-leaning videos and I have lots of right-leaning videos. It's a little bit confusing for when someone else who comes in to my feed and so, like, comes around to my house and like, picks up YouTube, and they go, "Why have you got all these different conflicting opinions?" So I have to say that I want to know both sides of the argument. Okay, so then to summarize, I start by using the free or cheap learning resources. Okay, and then as I kind of get more interested in the topic and the relevance in the industry, I dive into it. And then at a certain point, I'm ready to kind of splash the cash. Obviously, I need to speak to the wife, the financial advisor, and make sure that we can afford it. And then once I've gone into that, to really increase the value from that learning, I play back what I've learned to see what I've misunderstood, what gaps I have, and then to help me with my learning, make sure that you're not in an echo chamber, or be aware of your echo chambers, recognize what they are, and work out ideas to smash them. So take away that, search for hashtags rather than following the same people all the time. Okay, that is me done. I'll pass back to Christy.
Yes, great. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Really interesting stuff. I was going to say, I suppose I have a question as well. Lots of people often ask me sort of where they see testing going as an industry. Obviously, I have almost a bird's eye view of the market. I see what vacancies are coming up and where.
Yeah.
But how do you decide sort of what you're going to pursue further with regards to training? Is it just things that interest you, or is it, having spoken to someone and you have what you feel as inside knowledge as to what's going to be a valuable skill? How do you make those decisions?
So they're all manners of kind of these people who try and predict the future, right? So and no one's got a crystal ball, but there's some very intelligent people out there who are kind of across the trends. So ThoughtWorks Tech Radar is one of my sources.
Yeah.
That's I'll have a link to that in the slides, but that can give you an idea of what people are adopting and what people are leaving behind. But again, that's through the ThoughtWorks lens. So how ThoughtWorks are looking at the world might be different to how your organization is, right? Yeah. But then also seeing the kind of the conversation in Twitter, right? In that social media space, what are people talking about? What feedback is it getting? So like massive researchers in Python at the moment, right? Python was nowhere a couple of years ago, but data science has come in and now it's got a massive application. So actually Python is valuable now, right? So that's an example. So I've been trying to learn Python, which that interest was kicked off of a role I was in where data science was important, right? How can we as tester make sure like the data is good enough, for want of a better word. But yeah, so again, it's just being across the thought leaders. So follow the thought leaders in your industry. See what they're talking about, see what they're complaining about, because it might be what they're complaining about is the next big thing and it's a threat to them, right? But yeah, testing's going nowhere.
Okay, and obviously with thought leaders as well, and I know there are some big ones, quite well known, sort of Michael Bolton, James Back, James Whitaker, obviously, who you'll know very well. Who else would you recommend for people to maybe follow, or what resources by people, if you know any off the top of your head, obviously?
Off the top of my head.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Well, there's so many, right? So if I leave any off, they're going to be disappointed. So people who are active on social media would be kind of my starting point, because there's thought leaders who who don't engage in social media, right? But they're banging out loads of material that's fantastic. So at the moment, I'm doing a lot with Tom Gilb and Kai Gilb around the Evo model, which kind of the ideas fed into the Agile Manifesto. And then there's testing implications and quality implications there. Dom Reinerson, obviously, again, product development flow, but he talks a lot about small batch testing. So looking at test. So I'm looking at testing through different lenses. So rather than people who are solely in the testing community, I'm looking at people who are looking at testing from the outside in, right, and see what their thing is. From within the testing community, off the top of my head, Dan Ashby, obviously, he's very big on social media, and what he has to say is valuable, right? So I'd always listen to Dan Ashby. But you've already called out so kind of the Michael Boltons, the James Back, the James Whittaker, but we should be looking at kind of next generation of people coming through. So like, mine's gone blank. I can't pronounce her surname. Helen Marit, is it? Who talks a lot about mob testing.
Okay.
Or mob programming.
Okay. And what we said on the echo chamber as well, I think that's really important. I suppose not just within the industry, but just generally, it seems like views are becoming slowly more polarized. So it's important to to see and listen to different perspectives and sort of formulate your own opinion based on that. So
well, they are and they aren't, right? So Dorothy Graham does a fantastic talk, right, about what life was like for her as a software developer back in the 60s, right? And basically you can find and replace all the buzzwords. The process hasn't changed. And similar in software testing from what I'm seeing. Okay, so from the bubble I'm in, software testing, there's been kind of fluctuations, but there hasn't been anything that shifted the needle recently that's kind of piqued my interest. It's all kind of gradual. Maybe that's maybe it's evolution, not revolution.
Yeah.
But just being aware of what other people are up to outside of your filter bubble, really important.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Well, has anyone else got any questions that they'd like to put forward to, I suppose, me or Duncan? Nope.
Good.
Well,
so the slides are there and they've got some links in. I'm not going to do a curated list of the resources I use because they're out of date as soon as I've written them. There are some pointers to like Ministry of Test, what's called Test Automation U from Apply Tools. University, yeah. So there's lots of free stuff on there. Like, but yeah, there's some links in the slide for deep dive.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, thank you all for coming. I hope you've all found it really, valuable, informative, insightful. Obviously, if anyone wants to get involved in any sessions moving forward, if there's a topic that you'd like to see covered or that you'd like to cover yourself, feel free to drop me a message. I'd be more than happy to facilitate that. On a wider note as well, if anyone is interested in having any CV advice or a market overview from me as well, feel free to reach out. But yeah, as I say, I hope today has been really useful for you all, and thank you for coming.
Thank Christy.
Great.
Thanks, Christy. Thanks
all. Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.